Alright, so yesterday you looked at standard form, right? So today you're going to kind of review that and really solidify what we're doing here. So here's just a short video just to kind of remind you of the major points that we covered yesterday. So we're going to first look at kind of how to rewrite these equations, whether we're going from a slope-intercept form or a point-slope form, the process is the same to standard, or maybe we're in standard form, we want to go to slope-intercept form to make it maybe a little bit easier for us to graph. So, if I look at the first one, right, y equals 3/5 x plus 1, I'm going to look and say, if I want to write this in standard form, I can't have a fraction. And so I look and I say, okay, I have that 3/5, so I'm going to multiply both sides by 5 because that's what's going to get rid of that 3/5 fraction, right? And because it's an equation, I have to do the same thing to both sides. So I end up with 5y, and then I distribute that. And so remember, what that multiplying by 5 does is it gets rid of my fraction, so I have 3x plus 1. Or not plus 1. I'm going to distribute that 5, so I have plus 5. So then when I look there, right, I just have this x here, x term, that's kind of my problem. So I'm going to move that to the other side by subtracting and say 5y minus 3x is equal to 5. And there is my standard form, right? So that's kind of one form to standard. The other way we can do is say we're in standard form. Easiest thing to do sometimes might be just to solve for y so that you get slope-intercept form, and you could graph that then pretty easily or learn some things about that graph. So slope-intercept form, when I want to convert to that, I'm just going to solve for y. All right, so I'm looking at getting that y terminal, and so first I'm going to subtract 3x. And so I have 12y equals negative 3x plus 36. I write that out because they're not like terms, so I can't combine them. And then I look at it and say, well, I need to get this y by itself, so divided by 12, and I divide this whole side by 12. So y equals negative 3/12 x plus, then I say, what is 36 divided by 12? I'd get 3. And then I can look and say, well, I can kind of simplify that 3/12 into a negative 1/4 x. And there I have an equation that would be pretty easy to graph using slope-intercept form. Graphing these, right, you could solve for y, right? We could do that here, and that would be perfectly fine. We're going to talk about how to graph, though, if we're just using standard form. And so remember, the first thing we need to do is find our intercepts, right? So our x-intercept and our y-intercept. So remember, x-intercept is when y equals 0. So I'm going to plug in 0 for y and say, what is 2x plus, or what is x when y is 0, right? So plug that in with 2x equals 18, divide by 2. So x equals 9. So you're going to make a point at x equals 9. All right, and then I find my y-intercept. Remember, y-intercept is when x equals 0. So you plug that in and say, well, 2 times 0 plus 6, y is equal to 18. So 6y is 18, divide by 6. And you get that y equals 3. And so now I can connect my lines, my dots there, and I have my line graphed in standard form by finding the intercepts.